I guess you've noticed, and if you're a regular listener to this program, I know you have, because it's something I talk about quite a bit. And no matter where you look, you're going to come in contact with the craziness, the absolute lunacy that has taken over the Christian Fascist Party. The Christian Fascist Party itself has devoured what used to be the Republican Party. But the insanity is getting worse and worse. I'm really getting concerned that we have a segment of the U.S. population that is truly, absolutely, deeply, clinically nuts, crazy, insane. There was another CPAC circle jerk over the weekend. Where did they meet this time? It really doesn't matter, I guess, but they all got together, and one of the speakers was the orange vomit. Now, if you remember, back in the day, the last century, which was 21, 22 years ago, the culture war that the Republicans, then Republican Party, the culture war that they stirred up was often described as using 3 Gs, God, guns, gays. Remember that? Seems like 1,000 years ago. And as Greg Sargent points out in the Washington Post today, the right-wing nuts in this country, this culture war, is now better described with 3 Vs: vaccine derangement, validation of white racial innocence, and valorization of insurrectionists. How's that for a mouthful? Like I mentioned, over the weekend, CPAC had another one of its circle jerks. And this time, they treated the nation to a parade of craziness. We were told by the speakers at CPAC that the large percentage of Americans who remain unvaccinated against COVID-19 is a cause for ecstatic celebration. Kind of like, you ever watch the Hare Krishnas? I love the Hare Krishnas. They get out there in their saffron robes and their finger cymbals and tambourines, and they chant and dance and spin almost like whirling dervishes. And this is what the CPAC conference is becoming. But whereas the Hare Krishna people are reaching a spiritual ecstasy of their own invention that has to do with true spirituality, the CPAC nuts are getting into their crazy dances because they are so destructive. It's negative. It's fascism. It's horrible. We were also told that Marxist Democrats want to indoctrinate your kids to be ashamed of their whiteness. I mean, good God. And of course, we were told that the election was stolen from the orange vomit. And as Greg points out, that zombie lie was delivered to CPAC by the orange vomit himself, who was on Fox News earlier. He previewed what he was going to say by telling the people at the Fox sewer that the January 6 rioters were, his words, peaceful people. And that they, the insurrectionists, the traitors, the scum, the filth, 500 and almost 600 of whom have now been indicted, that they are the current moment's true victims of injustice, the rioters. Well, if you want one take home from the lunacy that was the CPAC, conference over the weekend. It's that this bullshit is going to be central to the Christian fascist efforts to destroy democracy again in 2022. And as Greg points out, that means the Democrats have got to stop responding defensively to this bullshit and come up with new ways to put Republicans on defense over it, which for some reason the Democrats just haven't figured out what to do. In an interview with the New York Times, the chair of the Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, the DCCC, he is Representative Sean Patrick Malloy. How's that for an Irish name? He seems to hint that the party will go on offense on these issues. That will be, and the effort will be designed to try to hold suburban voters in the Democratic Party who defected from the Trump Christian fascist organization. Maloney said this, quote, "The post-Trump Republican brand is bad politics in the suburbs," end quote. In the suburbs. What about all over America? But I digress. Maloney added that Republicans, Christian fascists, have embraced, quote, "dangerous conspiracy theories and flat-out white supremacists, and an all-around harshness and ugliness that will continue alienating suburbanites," end quote. What is it? What is this about suburbanites? No, seriously. I guess suburbanites are white folk, although when I look at the suburbs around Atlanta, I see as many, almost as many people of color as I do whites. I mean, what is this suburbanite bullshit? I guess that's the rest of the country, not necessarily the Atlanta area, because Atlanta is a black city. It's the center of black culture. It used to be Harlem, now it's Atlanta. But suburbanites, I mean, do suburbanites think differently from the way those of us who live in the city? Or these demographic breakouts to me are mysterious at best and nonsense at worst. Now, I realize the voting patterns of people who live in the suburbs differ from people who live in the city, as though they're two different places in time and space. They're not. I mean, you can go from the city of Atlanta to the suburbs of Atlanta in 5 minutes. You can go from the city of, or the inner city, or the downtown, or the in-town neighborhoods of any city to the suburbs in 5 or 10 minutes. You know, if the traffic isn't horrible. What the hell is the difference? But I digress. I'm getting hung up on the bullshit trivia here. Where was I? As we know, Democrats, it's often said, shy away from the kind of battles that the Christian fascists are forcing on America. Democrats prefer to campaign on so-called kitchen table issues. As if people sat around a kitchen table these days. Oh, come on, Democrats. Jesus Christ, it's not 1960 or 50 or 40. Kitchen table issues? Okay. It's only Monday and I'm getting all pissed off. But Democrats talk about these so-called kitchen table issues in the belief that if you deliver good governance, the politics will follow. And if the politics follow, the voters will follow. And the Democratic Party will remain in power or gain power, which would be good for America. But it is not working out that way because enough people in this country are insane enough, and enough people have gotten elected to public office within the various states to completely twist by gerrymandering how the state is represented in Washington, that this shit doesn't matter anymore. Good governance does not equal good politics, which does not equal voters who want to keep the Democratic Party in power. It's gotten so screwed up. That idea that I just laid out, it's not true, generally speaking, anymore. But Greg insists that it's true in some cases. As has been pointed out in the Ohio Senate race, Republican candidates that would be Christian fascist candidates, are burning the COVID masks and mocking reporters who were traumatized on January 6th. Well, in Ohio, the Democrats are talking about jobs. I mean, this is the madness that we live in now. The Democrats are talking about jobs. Biden refers to the infrastructure bill as a jobs bill, which is exactly what it is. Well, the Christian fascists are burning face masks and talking about how on January 6th, those people were there to reclaim a stolen election. See what I mean? It's just madness. Anyway, Representative Maloney's new quotes about dangerous conspiracy theories and flat-out white supremacists and harshness and ugliness that is the Republican Christian Fascist Party. Regardless of that, it suggests Democrats understand this is less of an option these days than instead they will need a serious counteroffensive that prosecutes the case against the Christian fascist radicalization of this country and destruction of democracy. In other words, what Maloney seems to get, and I don't know why more Democratic politicians don't get this, that the Christian fascists are hell-bent on destroying the country. And they need to have that pushed in their faces. The Democratic Party spokespeople for the Democrats, Democratic office holders, who never seem to want, well, Pelosi does once in a while, but they never seem to want to call a spade, call a Christian fascist a Christian fascist, call someone who is trying to destroy democracy someone who is trying to destroy democracy. I don't understand why the Democrats don't fight fire with fire. I really don't. Hi, Truth Seekers. Mike Malloy here. As you know, we've switched formats and are now broadcast exclusively on the Progressive Voices Network. So that means you get fewer program interruptions, no corporate commercials, and lots of profanity. But our format change also means some of our radio listeners no longer hear the program. It's been a while since I mentioned our podcasts, so you may have forgotten that there is a way to listen to this program anytime you need a good dose of screaming. Visit MikeMalloy.com and subscribe to our podcasts. As a podcast subscriber, you can download the program to your mobile device and take me with you wherever you go. And if you have a friend who needs a dose of truth-seeking, you can give a gift subscription as well. That's MikeMalloy.com. And never miss a minute of the uncensored fun and frivolity.